The disappearance of Breasia Terrell. By 9:30 that morning, panic had already set in. A 10-year-old girl was missing, and the people who were supposed to be watching her had no clear explanation for where she had gone. Her mother couldn't sleep. The police had no direction, and the man responsible for her safety couldn't answer the simplest questions. What began as a routine missing child report in Davenport, Iowa, would quickly spiral into one of the most disturbing cases the city had ever seen. Who was Breasia Terrell? Breasia Terrell was 10 years old. She was described by her family as bright, talkative, and closely bonded with her younger brother, DL. The two were rarely apart, and Breasia was known to be cautious, not the kind of child who would wander off alone. On the night of July 9th, Breasia and DL were spending the night at an apartment belonging to Henry Dinkins' girlfriend. Henry, who acted as a father figure to both children, had been caring for them overnight. By morning, Breasia was gone. At approximately 9:30 a.m. on July 10th, Breasia's mother, Aisha Langford, contacted police to report her daughter missing. She had already searched the area, she had already called family members, and she had already spoken with Henry, who could not tell her where Breasia was. Officers were dispatched immediately. At that point, police believed this might be a simple case of a child leaving on her own or staying with a friend. That belief would not last long. Meeting Henry Dinkins.
You don't know where your daughter is, you don't know your address.
Henry Dinkins, the man who had been responsible for Breasia the night before. Almost immediately, officers noticed something was off. Henry struggled to answer basic questions. He couldn't clearly explain when he last saw Breasia. He couldn't recall his home address. He couldn't remember his phone number. When asked what Breasia had been wearing, his answers were vague and inconsistent. To officers, it didn't sound like shock. It sounded like confusion layered over deception. As time passed, detectives noticed something troubling. Henry had not knocked on doors, he had not alerted neighbors, he had not actively searched nearby areas. Hours had gone by, yet he hadn't taken the actions most parents would instinctively take. Instead, he appeared distracted, defensive when questioned, irritated when challenged. Detectives began to suspect this was no longer a routine missing child case. While Henry struggled to explain himself, Aisha was frantic. She pleaded for help. She called relatives. She searched the neighborhood herself. She insisted that Breasia would never leave on her own, especially without telling anyone. The child had no reason to run away and no history of wandering off. As tension rose between Aisha and Henry, officers intervened, reminding both of them that the priority was finding Breasia. Behind the scenes, detectives were already reevaluating Henry's role. Inside the apartment, police asked to search the apartment where Breasia had last been seen. Henry's girlfriend, Andrea, hesitated before allowing officers inside, a moment that stood out to investigators. Inside, nothing appeared immediately out of place. There were no signs of forced entry, no signs of a struggle, nothing that explained how a child could vanish without notice. Andrea claimed Breasia had been asleep in the bed when she last saw her, but her demeanor troubled detectives. She hadn't joined the search, she hadn't volunteered information, and she seemed more concerned about appearances than answers. Henry disappears. As officers continued searching, Henry left the scene. By the time police later encountered him at the station, detectives noticed something odd. He was wearing the same clothes except for his shoes. At the time, it seemed insignificant. Later, it would become critical. Inside the interrogation room, detectives began piecing together Henry's timeline. According to him, he left the apartment multiple times during the night, once to visit a friend and again to buy cigarettes. He couldn't provide times. He couldn't explain how long he was gone. He couldn't remember where his phone was. Each attempt to clarify only made the story more confusing. Detectives were left with a growing sense that Henry wasn't forgetting details. He was avoiding them. When asked how he arrived at the police station, Henry said he came straight there, but his car wasn't in the parking lot. Pressed further, Henry admitted the vehicle was nearby, refusing to say exactly where. Officers soon found it parked just a block away. It appeared Henry had intentionally avoided bringing it to the station. That discovery escalated the investigation dramatically. The phone question. Detectives then asked to examine Henry's phone. The reaction was immediate. Henry became nervous, defensive, suspicious. He offered to show his phone, but refused to allow officers access to it. He wouldn't provide the passcode. He claimed to forget it. To detectives, this was a major red flag. With enough cause established, investigators began expanding their search. They reviewed surveillance footage from nearby stores. One clip stood out. Henry was seen purchasing cleaning supplies, including bleach, shortly after Breasia was reported missing. That footage changed everything. Soon after, police obtained search warrants. During searches connected to Henry, detectives found items that raised serious concern. Combined with Henry's criminal history, investigators now believed Breasia had never wandered off. They believed she had been taken, and they believed Henry was responsible.